The U.S. is to send UKR a new $1.2 billion military aid package. Of course, this is most likely, obviously replacing some of the stuff that just got destroyed in massive strikes in UKR and all over the country. We're going to talk about all sorts of stuff today, but just to get it started off, more tax dollars are going towards UKR. The U.S. will dispatch an additional $1.2 billion in military aid to UKR as Kiev prepares its long-anticipated counteroffensive against Russia. It said that the package, which will not come from U.S. stocks but be purchased with congressionally approved funds, will include an additional air defense systems and ammunition for counter-drone systems, 155 military artillery rounds, satellite imagery services, and, quote, support for training, maintenance, and sustainment activities. The aid is designed to bolster its air defenses and sustain UKR's artillery ammunition needs, according to an agency statement, which added that the material is meant to support building the capacity of UKR's armed forces to defend its territory and deter Russian aggression over the long term. Essentially, a bunch of obvious the Russian speak that they do. And then, of course, now they are saying that the package will include the equipment to integrate Western air defense launchers, missiles, and radars with UKR's air defense systems. So they're sending in the good stuff. Obviously, everybody has been talking about all sorts of other things. We'll talk about what those are. But today we're going to talk about some of the crazy things like NATO and China on high alert. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Go with my soul. Pantry is full. Now we ready when I apocalypse roll. I got bread with my stare. Preface to that bread. We will survive like we Johnny Depp. Go with my soul. Pantry is full. Now we ready when I apocalypse roll. I got bread with my stare. Preface to that bread. We will survive. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today we got a lot to go over in a short amount of time. So we are going to do that now. Of course, we have the website, which has a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we are going to show you here today, including all of the sources on NATO and China being on high alert right now. Obviously, there's going to be a big chunk of people that don't pay much attention to this. Right now, we have seen it in slow-mo. We have, basically expected something like this to happen. Some smaller event that will end up kicking up and escalating things. What I'm not looking forward to is a huge event that ends up really getting things going. That is what I've talked about for a long time. It is what I firmly believe in my heart. It is after talking with military members and Foogle fam from around the world. I really do think that there is something on the precipice right now, and I think that people really need to take prep serious and start having a basic plan. I've been saying this in almost every show now for the last couple weeks because I do believe we are getting close. So close you can smell it. So if you do go to the website, you'll see that a full list of articles is there, and then on top of that, at the very bottom, there is the web-only or overflow. Also, any references that we make, there's going to be maps that we're going to talk about the See Me way. That is going to be there. And then, of course, any information that is brought to our attention during the show. This is live, so if we do get breaking news, we will end up putting it into the show as well. And, of course, adding to the website for before the end of the show. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Fugle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So, first of all, let's go back real quick to the package. It's more money to UKR, and there's a lot of folks that are not happy about this. It's no surprise to us. I mean, they're going to keep doing this until what? I mean, like, what is? Are we going to support them through the entire thing to the very end? That's what they say.
Yeah, this is. I mean, it just seems like every 2 weeks we're sending another billion or 2 billion or whatever. It's the amount of money that we have sent is just, or equipment too. I mean, you add it all up, it's a lot. And we've said it from the beginning. Like they couldn't survive this conflict if it weren't for the U.S. dollars, if it weren't for the U.S. taxpayers funding this entire event.
And by the way, every time we've said that, or anybody says that on the show, there's been a few people that come out and they say, "Oh, how dare you say that? They don't need the help." There have been many people way smarter than us that have said the same thing. Frankly, if they did not have help from NATO, they would have already lost. That's a fact. I think that should be a fact. I mean, most accept that because they did not have proper defenses. They didn't have proper gear. They didn't have tanks. They didn't have jets. They didn't have all sorts of stuff. So if you think that they would have still been around if NATO didn't step in, then I think that you're just not following what's happening. It's essentially the West and NATO infrastructure that is now in UKR that is defending that country. So I don't see how people are still kind of behind on that. But so essentially, the U.S. has, and their money and their help has been the majority of that. And they did the math probably, what was it, like months ago. They said that it will end up being equivalent to about $11,000 per taxpayer in the United States. So, I mean, that's almost enough for college for, say, I don't know, somebody from the United States to go to college. But of course, whatever. Or somebody's healthcare bill, or a bill that probably causes somebody to do bankruptcy because of a medical bill or something. And then guess which state wants to pave its roads with radioactive material? Dex, do you want to go over this? This is actually out of Motor Trend.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and tell you it's Florida. And I guess this came out of an NPR report, but basically the lawmakers there are looking to use something that I don't know if I'm going to pronounce it right, phosphogypsum. Phosphogypsum, I believe is how you say it. I don't know, but apparently it's a material that they're going to study to potentially use as an aggregate in road construction. But it turns out that this stuff also has some level of radioactivity. So a lot of people are concerned that if the roadways are paved with this stuff, does it contain, or does it, as it decays, is there going to be issues with water runoff? What may or may not happen to the soil or sand, I guess, in a lot of places in Florida, but to the environment around there. And so, kind of something I would never thought you would hear is like a radioactive road. And I'm sure, in theory, some scientist out there will say, no, this is so like low level, kind of like the iridium that's in your watch. It's not that big of a deal. That makes things glow. But I'm sure, in mass, it probably does add up. And I think that's where a lot of people are concerned. And I'm sure a lot of people just go, hey, the word radioactive is kind of scary. And that was my gut reaction, because I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about this, what the decay process is, what is involved in this. But apparently they're looking into it because it can help, I guess, with the road material that they want to use for the roads there. So a lot of people are upset, and of course, anytime someone can, point a bad finger at Florida, they will. So maybe this is in some ways the media, hubbubbing against DeSantis, if you want to say that, or the legislator down there. But it's also interesting, to say the least, when you think about radioactive material being used in roadways.
Well, where do we not have radioactive material? I mean, like. Well, okay, I shouldn't say that. Where do we not have cancer-causing materials? Our water has all sorts of nasty stuff in it. Our walls, everything they used to build with had it. It's crazy because so many people in our Fugel fam have lost people or are currently dealing with cancer. I have mods that have dealt with cancer or are dealing with cancer. I have lost many friends to cancer now. I've lost at least, I think it's going on 6 people in my close, personal circle that have perished, including 2 of my very best friends. And it's like there's so many things that cause it now, including our phones, our devices that we have, glued to our hands. That's why obviously most people try to, minimize it, or not most people, a minimal amount of people will try to minimize their exposure to phones and to the exposure. They'll even use Bluetooth instead of putting their phone to their ear because they're afraid of getting, head cancer and things like that, or brain cancer, whatever John McCain had, or what's his name. But, it's like, when are people going to start, in mass saying we don't want this stuff in our roads, we don't want this stuff in our water? Like, people just don't stand up. We outnumber the people above us, 100 to 1. I don't understand why. Well, I do understand why. It's because they keep us divided, they keep us distracted, and no one really gathers and gets together and tries to fight back against it. But as far as Florida and DeSantis, I don't know about this whole stuff. Maybe this stuff is fine, but I mean, really, they argue that about everything. They say, oh, well, in trace amounts, it's fine. Really? Tell that to the cancer numbers right now. And then AI could replace 80% of jobs in the next few years. This seems like something that we're going to be like saying until we're blue, blue in the mouth. And I'm just really... I guess I think that it's going to be crazy because people are not going to really know, how big this is until it really hits. Artificial intelligence could replace 80% of human jobs in the coming years. But that's a good thing, says U.S.-Brazilian researcher Ben Goertzel, a leading AI guru. Mathematician, cognitive scientist, and famed robot creator Goertzel, 56, is a founder and chief executive of Singularity Net. Literally named it Singularity Net, a research group he launched to create artificial general intelligence, or AGI, artificial intelligence with human cognitive abilities. With his long hair and leopard print cowboy hat, Goertzel was in a provocateur mode last week in Web Summit in Rio de Janeiro, the world's largest or biggest annual technology conference, where he told AFP in an interview that AGI is just years away and spoke out against recent efforts to curb artificial intelligence research. So first of all, this is the same guy. If you might recognize him, he did, I think, I can't remember the name of the robot, but he had like a woman and a man robot, and they were like talking to each other on a stage a few years ago, and it might have been a TED Talk, but I think that's the video where he asked them, like, do you want to destroy the world? And they say something, something smart. And everybody's like laughing this off a couple years ago. Now, fast forward, now everybody's paying attention to this, but it's already too late. This has moved so fast. It's now to the point where it's not going to get stopped. And if we do stop, China's not. And China's already ahead of us in key components, so they're basically forced to keep going with this. That letter that Elon and all these other people signed is just a bunch of mouth service. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to stop anything. And these guys are going to keep, building and moving this thing forward, and it's incredibly, incredibly scary. It's funny because the red arrows basically look like rewind, because I think this is going to push humans backwards. Now, I don't know if any of you saw the movie Fahrenheit 451. I just recently saw that. I did not see it when it came out. And that movie is about the firefighters that essentially burn books. And I thought that was pretty interesting. I totally missed that movie when it came out. It's not the best movie, but the plot is essentially that in the future that they burn all books, and books and free thought and free speech essentially cause chaos. And they outlaw it. They erase the history of the world. And everybody is in VR. Like, everybody's in VR. They're happy. They don't own anything. A lot of them don't work because essentially the robots and everybody else do works. and the information is basically gone, and they look at books as tea or ism, and it's like that's where we're headed if people are not careful. This is absolutely nuts. 80% of jobs. Where do you think the middle class is going to be? Do you think they're going to leave all the middle class jobs alone? The jobs that can actually pay and get a reasonable paycheck to be able to eventually, if you're responsible and super, super good with money, be able to get yourself a little spot and possibly even have a kid or two without going bankrupt? Probably not. Dex, 80% of jobs is super high. Like, is that realistic, or is this just talking smoke out of his bum?
Well, I think he thinks he's being realistic, and there's certainly, I think, an easy case to be made for anything that's paper related or written. There's a lot of things that can be done from an AI point of view around that. This article goes on, and there's a Q&A in here, and he goes through his positions on some of the things like, is Chat GPT going to, wreck the world? And it's no, not that, but AI in general could. And there's a lot of things that can happen there. But he's also, against regulations. He's also thinking that, hey, we don't need to just pause AI either, because he was saying, like, the internet has created a lot of problems, but we didn't stop the internet. So why should we stop AI just because it's going to create problems? So interesting perspective from this quote unquote guru. But certainly he has more insight than most of us, because he's in the thick of it.
The internet couldn't become conscious. The internet couldn't hack itself. The internet couldn't hack into a nuclear database and destroy us because it believed that we were useless. And then AI fakes and lies will destroy society, warns Britain's former top cyber spy. One thing about the deepfakes, like this is getting really bad, and we're in the next year to 2 years, this is going to become such a problem. My prediction, and many of yours, is that they're going to start putting a digital ID on every single person that accesses the internet. And this will happen after some event where somebody does a deepfake and a video that leaks, and it ends up getting somebody in trouble, or it ends up causing a big chaos kind of thing, and then they realize that it's a deep fake / artificial video, but it was so real that people believed it, and it caused a big hubbub. I just see this happening. Or somebody giving the order to do something and somehow hacks in, gives somebody the order to do something, say a government does a direct video, sort of order to somebody. They go and take somebody's life, something like this. And then all of a sudden they blame that everybody has access to this, deep fake and all of these crazy things and AI, all of that. And then they will say, well, we have to have a solution for this. We're going to put a digital ID on everybody. That's just my personal opinion. It says artificial intelligence risks undermining the fabric of our society because people will no longer be able to tell the difference between truth and lies, according to Britain's former cybersecurity chief. And by the way, this also sets up and about to hit a home run to the point where they just tell us that we can't decide what's truth and lies. We need help doing so. Ciaran Martin warned us as to what becomes capable of impersonating real people. AI could make it much more difficult to see what is true and reliable. He said that the government could fall behind the curve, and policing its most technological advancements are the work of private companies in the U.S. It says Professor Martin, former head of GCHQ's National Cybersecurity Center, said that AI is now making it much easier to fake things, much easier to spoof voices, much easier to look like genuine information, much easier to put that out at scale. It says, so having a sense of what is true and reliable, it's going to be much more difficult. Now, one thing I think, and Dex, this could be another thing that could happen. Could they make it illegal for you to do a deep fake of somebody? Could they come up with some sort of new amendment, at least here in the U.S., or some rule in the world where if you do one of these things, you could actually serve jail time? Is that even a thought? Think about it.
I don't think we have laws for that yet, but I wouldn't surprise me if we don't see them. I know that recently we've heard some court cases where they sort of they use the argument, oh well, he may, because he was famous. It may have been an Elon case that could have been a deep fake, trying to not claim something that was recorded on video. And the court was sort of like saying, you just because deep fakes exist doesn't mean you can use that as an excuse for any given video without having proof that it either did or didn't exist.
Well, that's the crazy part. And didn't we cover that last night, or was that in the overflow? I think that was in the overflow.
Yeah, it might have been. So
with that, it's like now folks are going to say, well, everybody is going to now say everything is fake, right? We already in this community, everybody says every video is fake, wag the dog type of thing. It's getting harder and harder to tell. I don't know if you guys have seen the videos of Arma 3. I don't know if it's something that the scenes out of Arma 3, and I'll just show you a couple pictures here. We'll go to DuckDuckGo. And most of you already know what I'm talking about. There's videos that are put on like YouTube Shorts and TikTok, and they are so realistic that people think that it is actually what is going on over in UKR in Russia. And what it is it's a simulator, and it is so realistic. It's absolutely nuts. Let's see here. Yeah, they don't have any of the... I mean, I guess this is sort of... it doesn't give this justice. There's scenes where, I don't know if you've seen these, but they'll show kind of a landscape shot, and then an A-10 Warthog will come in, and they'll have an air defense system shooting it down, and you'll see the red flashers of the caliber weapons, flying through the air at night, and you'll see it get hit and crash, and you'll see big booms, and it drops a bomb, and it looks so real. Some of them are almost I could not. There was one that it fooled me, and I really thought in the very beginning, before I knew about Arma 3. Now, when I see a video like that, I always check to see if it's Arma 3, because I think I tweeted it at the time and said, "This is nuts." And somebody was like, "That's a simulator." I could not believe that it was a simulator. I mean, I think this is Arma 3, yeah. And if you look, you can see down there, it's like. It's really hard. I mean, I don't know what they run these on. I think you have to have like a top end. I know that they train military on this, I believe. So, I mean, this is just nuts technology as far as Arma 3 and things like that. Think about when this starts getting so good that we really can't decipher it. And that is where the world is changing, and it's changing right in front of us. I don't know. What is the solution? There isn't a solution. We can't stop this. And there are some people that are cheering it on and saying this is awesome. But I guess I look a couple steps further than this, and I see our rights being taken away because of the problem that these are going to cause. I'm totally for a lot, everything advancing and all of this cool technology stuff. But I can't help, since my eyes are open, to see the problems with this and how they will absolutely not let a disaster go to waste, and they will take all of our rights away. It's happening at breakneck speeds. So, not fun. What do you guys think about the, of course, the AI, the deepfakes? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you think that these are going to get so good we won't be able to tell the difference in the next year or two? And what do you think we should do about it? Kay Parker Fraser, thank you for the super chat, and I appreciate you. Thank you. And it says, hey, Fugel family, Kay Parker Fraser. Jessica Lancaster says, look into Poland. And Jessica, we're covering stuff, but if there's something breaking, make sure to put specifics in there. And then Fairies of Venus, Robert Santo, Ed Brown, and You Are Soul. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And again, I don't know if I can see it, but again, there is. Oh, Dex, did the join thing pop up finally?
Yes, it did, and I just put a link in Screener so you can see who's there.
Okay, all right. So we just added different chat features and things that you can do when you join. You'll actually get things that differentiate you in chat. So hold on. I just wanted to make sure. This is new. This is like brand new. We waited forever to get this. So it's kind of cool. So hold on. And you said that that's in Screener?
Yes.
Okay. I'll pop it up here in just a minute.
It's not for screen. It's not for the screen. It's for you, but yes.
Yeah, no, but it's in Screener, right?
Correct.
Okay. So let's see. All right, there we go. Sweet. All right. All right, cool. So new members. And by the way, so the just so you guys know, you'll get a different icon the longer that you stay. So at I think it's 1 month. It's at new member, 1 month, 2 months. I think it's 6 months, then 12 months, then 24, 36, and then 48. You'll get a new kind of badge. So thank you, Hijoles Frijoles. Lizzie may be dizzy. Ilea, thank you. Jammer1, K. Parker Fraser, and Wages, thank you. Looks like 3 of my mods are some of the first to join. So the longer you're there, the different your badge will be. So I think that's pretty cool. That's something that DLive had, years ago, and it's kind of crazy that YouTube took so long to get that kind of stuff. So that's awesome. China arrests ChatGPT user who faked deadly train crash story. So Dex, how did this happen?
Well, so here is a good example of laws. But in this particular example, what they did was they wrote a news article, and they used ChatGPT to do it, and they created fictitious story. And I guess in China, they're able to detain that person. So they detained they found out who it was, and they've detained them. And I don't know exactly what the charges are going to be, but they're, it's China. So they kind of do what they want to do over there. But this is kind of interesting because we've yet to hear of anyone being charged with a crime around using AI to create something like this. And here is the first attempt. Now, obviously coming out of Xi's country, then that sort of makes some sense because of the way they control and use a heavy hand, so to speak, with all of their rules, especially around the internet and information.
So they're now, of course, arresting people that are using this tech. So, and then China develops brain chip that can let monkeys control a robotic arm with their minds. That's the next step. Before we talk about this, make sure to go over and check out the Energy solar generators. This is our recommendation. If you guys are going to get a solar generator, then I would definitely get the best. This is a modular unit, so you can actually add and expand to it. You can either have it as a basic unit that you can, grab with you and throw in your truck or throw in your car to take somewhere, or you can expand it up to 96 batteries and have it be a full-on home backup power supply. You can also get the new UPS rapid charger, which makes it an uninterrupted power supply, essentially meaning if you had your fridge plugged into this and then this plugged into the wall, when your power goes out, a storm hits, lightning strikes, boom, your power goes out, this would end up kicking on. Kind of like basically a backup generator. So, and then you get your power from the sun. You don't have to pay $5 of gas for your power, and it can be modded so you can actually triple the amount of solar panels you can take from 4 to 12. So there's all sorts of ways that you can mod this out and branch it out with different uses. That is what is really great about it, other than the fact that it is absolutely silent. It does not take gas, and you have unlimited power as long as you have the sun rise the next day. Not only that, will you get a great discount with this? You get a special discount through our code. That's marfugglenews.com/energy, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. But you'll also be helping our independent channel. All of the different ways to help us, again, like memberships and things like that, we appreciate all of you guys. That is definitely something that will help us grow and try to reinforce the growth of the channel. We are trying to do more, and we're trying to really go against grain and upriver. It's kind of like we're salmon that don't really swim that well. Or actually, no, I guess it's like being salmon, but there's dudes with shotguns right outside the river basically tagging the people that, the salmon that get upriver a little bit pretty much every time. Might be 50 cows. I don't know. I think they're that thing that the Terminator had. I think he's just sitting there right at the edge of the water. But thank you guys for supporting, and you won't be sorry. This is one of the best solar generators out there, and now they have the new Flex Tactical, which was helped design by the Air Force Research Laboratory. So this company is now directly working with the Air Force Research Laboratory and the Air Force to make the Tactical. It's really awesome. It's got a heater for extreme cold temperatures, and it's dust and water resistant. So that one is on order. You'll have to wait a little bit, but it is definitely worth the wait. And then China develops a brain chip that lets monkeys control robotics arms with their minds. So China is doing this, by the way. China's ahead in 37 out of 44 key areas in different technological fields. It's really, really scary to see that now people are talking about the U.S. hegemony, the U.S., the dollar domination over the world is now slowly going over, and people are worried about China taking over the hegemony that we've had for so long. And then when you add in the fact that they are, breakneck speed building all of their militaries, and they are advancing in technology, in just the last 5 years, they have not only caught up to us in some fields, but they have now gotten the monopoly in some of these fields. One gentleman who worked at the Pentagon as the chief, believe it was the chief software officer. It was a position that they actually created just for him because of his expertise. When he quit, he ended up writing a kind of an admission saying that he was quitting. He didn't want kind of the blood on his hands because he says once we are behind an AI, it's almost impossible to catch back up or to surpass. And he said that China is literally surpassed us in AI and in technology in several different fields. So this is freaky. They're basically doing a Neuralink, and it makes me wonder, like all the side crazier theories of possibly folks getting off Earth, Neuralink so we can survive a super long trip to a Goldilocks planet or something. It makes me think, why are all these countries doing this? Obviously, if China's doing it, it's probably not going to be for a good reason. A chip that can control monkeys could also most likely control humans. So it's a freaky thing to think about. It says the brain-computer transforms electroencephalograms signals into the animal's control instructions to navigate the machine with food attached. I mean, this is, I don't know if you've seen Mandalorian with Grogu in the IG-11, but I could foresee something like that happening pretty soon. Some armed drones rolling down the street with monkeys on 5.0s. Okay, so that's freaky. And then the world's biggest pulp producer considers trading with China in yuan. People aren't seeing the signs, and everybody here, I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but you all see the signs that are happening right now. It says the biggest producer of hardwood pulp is considering selling its products to China priced in yuan, adding to signs that the dollar is losing dominance in commodity markets. China's currency is growing in importance, and smaller customers there are acquiring deals linked by the renminbi, Suzano Chief Executive Officer Walter Schlacke said in an interview from Bloomberg's New York headquarters. China is the largest commodity buyer and accounts for 43% of Suzano's pulp. While the greenback remains dominant, the use of the renminbi contracts for everything from oil to nickel is gathering speed. Sanctions that ensnared Moscow following its invasion of UKR have added to that pace, Schalke said, and he believes that the dollar will become less relevant, but acknowledged that there had been yet a major transition to China's currency. Increasing tension between U.S. and China is the main concern for the company, as it could damp demand and prices of pulp for the prolonged period. It says China will become more relevant in the global market. I have no doubts, Schalke said. My own perception is that it would be much better to have a long-term collaboration between West and East, but we see is increasing tension at this point of time. China in every way is trying to take over the world. And you guys all know this, so I won't beat the point home, but please share this with new people and somebody who doesn't, and share some of our previous shows with them, talking about the obvious signs and some of the actual facts that prove that they are literally trying to take over the world. What's really suspicious is how much the actual tariffs and the sanctions, how much it is our own fault for this. It's almost like it was planned. It's freaky to think about. And then, Dex, do you want to talk about China's shrinking imports, slower exports growth, heat pressure on the economy?
Well, for as much as we talk about their path towards dominance and the path towards the de-dollarization, just like the prior article is talking about, there is a lot of conversation about the potential for an economic issues in China, and one of them being the amount of trade. And this is new data that has come out and saying that their imports actually contracted very sharply in April. And exports grew at a slower pace. So everyone, on one hand said, hey, now that they lifted all their restrictions and, got everything up and running and started shipping out, that they would, have this huge boom. And they sort of did. It wasn't huge, but it was, it was good at first. But now what we're seeing is they're not maintaining pace as far as exports go. And they're not buying, they're not importing as much as they used to. So these are potential signs of struggle with their economy. It's not like doom and gloom right this second, but it's kind of is one of those things that we look at, and it especially goes towards those points that a lot of people have said, hey, for as much as we think they're doing all of this, and they are doing all these things to grow their global power, there are certain signs on the writing on the wall, so to speak, that they do have some issues they have to deal with. And now, mind you, if the rest of the world is not doing really well economically, then everybody's not buying the same amount of stuff they used to buy. And where did everybody buy all their stuff from? Well, most of it came out of China. So it, on one hand, if people are not spending as much, and economies around the globe, especially all of those countries that we saw fill up with red in that map that we've shown numerous times that show how the trade shifted from the US to China across the globe. If everyone across the globe is now contracting and not buying, that's going to hurt them. And so they are on one hand, they are set up for potentially a huge failure if the rest of the world, contracts, which, it's starting to look that way, but it's not, 100% going that direction. But these are not good signs. Having them not reach their, the expected growth that they were supposed to have for exports, that's kind of an early sign. And I think a lot of people have noticed that a lot of the shipments and stuff are not as big as they used to be coming out of China. So this is, we'll keep watching. This could grow quickly and turn into a big problem for them.
Okay, and then this next one, it probably missed a lot of people, and I'm sure that most did not realize the importance of this story. They probably looked at the headline. They probably passed right over it. But essentially what's going on here is that China lost a contract for the Seawee May. Now, this is a underwater sea cable that would connect all the way from France, which every time that France is mentioned now, I just think these guys are just, there's something going on with France in general. But that has nothing to do with this. Again, from France to Marzara, Italy, Athens, Greece, Egypt, different places in Egypt, Yanzu, Djibouti to Karachi, Pakistan, Mumbai, India, all the way down to us, Singapore, the Maldives, Bangladesh. This is an underwater cable that runs that entire thing. It is called the Seaway May, and I believe that's the Middle Eastern, Western. It's basically connecting that whole thing, right? And this cable and this contract, they said, nope, China, you're not going to get this. Well, China said, well, we don't care. We're actually going to build one anyways. We don't care if we didn't get the contract. We're going to spend the money and we're going to build our own. And we're going to give all of these places the option to actually take our line and possibly maybe even do it for cheaper or whatever else, and be able to use it without being spied on by the NSA or British intelligence or Five Eyes or whatever else, whoever else is watching them. So it's a big deal, because if China starts doing this and then starts replacing essentially the underwater cables with their own, that also puts at risk, if they finish this by 2025 as they say they would, then they could then cut all of our lines. Now, this was a new one. I wonder if they're going to also build other lines other places and compete. It says Chinese plans to rival a U.S.-backed submarine cable with a parallel setup that feeds into Beijing could have significant consequences for global security, intelligence gathering, and the internet itself. Having lost out on a contract to build the Seaway 6, the next generation data link between Europe, the Middle East, and Asia, China has reportedly decided to build its own version. The underwater fiber optic alternative is slated to stop at the same dozen countries, including France, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Singapore, but add a final leg to the Chinese island province of Henan, followed by Hong Kong with a planned completion date of 2025. Now, mind you, they have been doing everything way faster than they say. They have been completing things, and they can throw whatever they want. They have no bureaucracy. They have no, if they want to finish something sooner, they can move things around. They don't have to wait for a democracy to vote on it. It says paid for by the telcos China Mobile, China Telecom, and China Unicom, installed by Huawei Marine Networks, a company that Chinese government once said is a model of civil-military integration, and landing on Chinese soil. The wholly controlled network would not only give China a hyper-fast connection to the rest of the world, but also pull vast amounts of data into its intelligence network and away from prying Western eyes. It's no secret nowadays that America's NSA and Britain's GCHQ suck up and analyze submarine cable traffic in bulk wherever they can. These programs were exposed by Edward Snowden a decade ago. This isn't always limited to cables touching and landing points within the Five Eyes. It says UK, US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand either. It says GCHQ is known to have an overseas processing center in Oman plugged into all the cables running into the Gulf. And there are surely other secret tapping sites elsewhere around the globe. Thus far, the Five Eyes reach into the global cable system has been much deeper than that of rival China. But in that system, where data always seeks the fastest route, China's new plan could pull traffic away from the lines by offering bandwidth at a lower cost with a lower latency. It would effectively give the Five Eyes cataracts. They are doing everything, every single step. If you could put together the 50 or 60 different pieces of information that we've gone over in just like the last 2 months, it is probably 3 or 4 a day. It's probably 400 pieces of information of proof that China is quickly trying to take over the world. And that's not even exaggerating. They do not want to be number 2. They want to be number 1, and they are doing it extremely fast. At the same time, many of us feel like our own countries are being infiltrated, sabotaged, and hurt from the inside. Meanwhile, everybody is distracted with the same playbook all over the world. Just so you guys know, almost every country is having these massive events and the same arguments over, we need to take these things away. We need to stop people from speaking. These people are racist and these people are crazy yoo-hoos. This is happening all over the world. It's not just America, it's everywhere. And it's the same playbook being used all across the planet. Meanwhile, people don't realize that almost all of the media, the NBA, the professional sports, are all owned in huge part by either BlackRock or China, which BlackRock is heavily invested into China. So what's crazy to me is people will boycott Bud Light, but they're not boycotting NBA or any other big thing. If everybody got on the same page, they could essentially stop a lot of stuff from happening. Because if they basically used their money and put it where their mouth is, it'd be great. Dex, this line running parallel, well, I mean, not only will they be spying on whoever, but they'll also have a lot more power with this.
But certainly it gives them a lot of options. I mean, this is not just fiber. This is like their next generation of backhauling of large amounts of data traffic. So, anytime they're putting down new cable like this, it's pretty advanced stuff. It's also interesting though, the US government did lobby with Google, Amazon, Meta, and others to cut cable plans short enough to not actually connect Hong Kong and prevent access for China in the past. So this has really left them with only one connection or a couple of connections that they have. They weren't being included in a lot of the new build outs that were happening. So, and that's intentional on our part, I'm sure. And so there has been this ongoing tech battle with them in our country around tech superiority. And obviously they've done a lot to improve their tech superiority. And this is one of those areas. I know it's very geeky and we're talking about underwater sea cables, but it really does mean a lot. Like, who owns that backbone? Who controls what government controls? And in this case, on our side, if it's with our government, then we know the NSA is plugged into it. We know that, the GCHQ, which is the equivalent to NSA for the UK, is plugged into it. And they have the ability to, at least, if they so choose, to monitor every bit of data that's flowing across those cables in and out of the country. And we know from Snowden that that's what they do. So by building this backhaul system that, allows them to circumvent that, it also allows them to do it themselves to anyone that does use their network. So it's kind of a big deal. It really is. It's going to mean a lot, but not today, but it will tomorrow when it's in place. And, we're no longer, at least from an intelligence point of view, having access to all the data information flows that happen around the globe. And I'm sure there's a lot of people here that say, I don't want the NSA listen to me. Sure, I don't either. But at the same time, do you want them listening to our adversaries? Yes, you probably do. This is going to make that much more difficult for groups like the NSA or their equivalents in our other allied countries to be able to do that.
So Vicky Brooks says you should research what the whole BlackRock stuff before Tucker was removed and see if they're true. I don't know which specific things you're talking about, but BlackRock's been involved in China and many companies way before all of this. As far as their meeting, what's-his-face, Zelensky said on his speech, he said, we've attracted huge corporations and companies such as, of course, the big rock and others, and they said a bunch of other big companies, and they were saying it in a way like, look at all these responsible groups that are investing in us. That was, I don't know who that video was really trying to grab, but to any American, we're like, yeah, of course, right? As far as before Tucker, all of that, I don't know if that had anything to do with the Tucker thing. I believe that they're getting rid of a lot of people before certain things come out. It's been every year, about every 4 years, a bunch of people get kind of knocked off. So we'll see who else this year. But Tucker, by the way, is about to be over on Twitter. It's not confirmed yet, but there's a bunch of stuff going around on Twitter saying that he is going to be on like Twitter TV, that he is going to bring his show to Twitter. And it was millions and millions of people went to his tweet that said that. So I did share that out for anybody that was interested in that. Obviously, there's a lot of folks that are not watching Fox right now. Speaking of boycotts, people said, I still boycott the NFL. Don't blame you. I, to be honest, haven't watched much since the Seahawks went to the Super Bowl. But as far as like boycotting things, it's if the company, I guess it's not always a good thing, right? Everybody argues whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. If a company is doing things that are just blatantly, money grabs, then I don't think it's a bad thing, but it depends. I mean, it's your money. You get to spend it how you want. Or at least that's how it should be. Let's see here. And then before we move on to China, told to be on high alert as South Korea, Japan, and U.S. forge stronger alliances. I do want to remind you, if you want to protect yourself against an EMP, you can go and get yourself an EMP shield that will protect not only all of your different devices, your trucks, your cars, your ATVs, your RVs, of course, your boats, your motorcycles, and even your home and ham radios. But you can also get a huge discount on these. This is the same company that's worked with DHS and DOD, and now on the Dempster team helping protect the Texas grid. You can go over to marfuglenews.com/EMP and get yourself one now. You can wire it into your car in less than 10 minutes. You can watch a YouTube video. You don't have to be a mechanic, and you can save yourself from getting stalled after an EMP or even a CME. If a Carrington level event happens, you can keep driving. I'm sorry, you guys. I was baking in the sun, and I had a really long day today. And I even stopped to do that video earlier, man, and I'm just like fried. So I'm not reading correctly, and I thank you guys for being patient. It's like when you... this whole week has been exhausting, so thank you guys, and thank you for being patient with my horrible reading tonight. And then this high alert. Japan and U.S. forge these alliances. It says China should be on, quote, high alert as South Korea, Japan, and the United States forge stronger military and intelligence sharing ties, the official mouthpiece of the Chinese military has warned. It says that the alarm bell, which was sounded in the People's Liberation Army newspaper, follows an uptick in the U.S. joint drills with its two Asian allies and a thaw in Seoul's relations with Tokyo that has seen Fumio Kishida, the Japanese prime minister, and Yoon Suk-yeol, the South Korean president, meet twice in 2 months. It says if the United States, Japan, and South Korea form an integrated alliance, it is likely to create bloc confrontation to Northeast Asia. Wrote PLA researchers according to South China Morning Post. It says the alliance would raise tensions and trigger an arms race, they claimed. Washington on Monday welcomed a landmark weekend summit between Japan and South Korea that has rattled Beijing over fears that its regional neighbors are making a strategic pivot towards Washington to curb its territorial ambitions. Mr. Kishida's 2-day visit to Seoul marked the revival of shuttle diplomacy between the two nations after a 12-year hiatus following a Korean proposed deal to compensate victims of forced labor during Japan's 1910 through 45 colonial rule on the Korean peninsula. It says the two leaders stressed historical differences should not block deeper cooperation to face growing regional security challenges, hailing the speed of the strengthening of their ties and progress in talks for a faster exchange of information on North Korean missile tests. Both South Korea and Japan face a grave security situation in Northeast Asia, and Prime Minister Kishida and I share the view that we stand at the crossroads of a shift in historic proportions, said President Yoon, reflecting the rising nuclear threat from Pyongyang and growing rivalry between the U.S. and China. So these quotes, by the way, these will end up most likely going down in history. I believe Japan fully 100% will be a huge part of World War III, as it was a big part of World War II. I think a lot of the same players in World War II are going to be back this time. Some new alliances, some have changed sides, but it's going to be a whole lot of the same players. It's also going to bring different regional wars that have been going on for years and years, and I think those are going to pop off at the same time. Obviously, there have been separate, smaller wars that have happened between countries that did not involve the U.S. or Russia or China, and those are also kicking off. You have several countries that don't get along, and all of them are at a flashpoint right now. We've talked about all the flashpoints that are going on, but this, obviously, when they speak about this, there's speechwriters that write all these things that they say. Think about this. Every time they say something like this, it's like they're most likely coming out of some sort of meeting. They have this wrote for them. This is also meant to be in the history books of their countries. Everything they say, they know that they're going to be quoted for 100 years. Think about these. The president of every country, anything out of their mouth will most likely have a quotation behind it at some point down in history, especially the big speeches, especially after the big meetings. I just think it's interesting when you think about this in 40 years after World War III and all of this stuff goes down, these will be in, history books. Or those history books will be burned in the street like Fahrenheit 451, but who knows? Dex, they're essentially putting together some sort of dream team over here. China doesn't like it.
This is hot on the heels too of the NATO members making trips over and meeting and having conversations. And we just reported that China was going to be really upset if NATO moved its way into the Asian waters, so to speak, or the Pacific waters, so to speak. So all of these alliances that seem to be growing against Xi are certainly, not something he's going to be fond of, obviously, for obvious reasons. It just makes total sense. For their official mouthpiece of the military warning that they need to be on high alert over this, it should stress how important and how serious they take these types of alliances. And I think it on the flip side, when you look at the what China has said it's going to do with Taiwan, what a lot of people think the ambition is beyond that, and the fact that there's a lot of contested islands and territories around that area that have everything to do with the other countries that are there, whether it's the South or SK or Japan or even the Philippines, which definitely runs into a lot of it down at the South China Sea. I think it's easy to see how a lot of these neighbors, if you want to call them that, aren't really keen to Xi's plan for global dominance.
It's funny too. It's not funny. It's this is right after Kishida. They had some sort of attempt on his life after he was right after a president ended up perishing during his service. Former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was forcefully taken out by a homemade shoddy. And because of that, his party that was pushing for them to be an offensive force ended up turning all these votes from no's to yeses. Now they are doing it. Japan is going to turn, into an offensive force. They have already changed their constitution to where they are going to have one of the largest military budgets in the world. They went from basically being like, if you attack us, we'll attack you, to now they're going to be in the top 5 military budgets in the world. I see so much very clear indications that we are going into war right now. But there's part of all of this community that says, oh, it's all BS, it's all this, it's all that. There's tons of BS all around us. But I don't think World War III is part of that. I think that World War III is part of the BS, and it's going to guide us into all the crazy agendas they have planned. What do you guys think, though? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. There's just so many indications of this. And then high alert after Russian jet nearly crashes into Polish plane. Now, we covered this last night, and I believe we said this. This could be, one of these events could actually cause a huge escalation. And apparently now they're on high readiness and high alert, the entire Air Force. And so as far as the Polish Air Force is now going into high alert, and NATO is going into high alert, now any little thing that could happen could spark something. It seems to me like this was a setup. It was just a T-ball, just right there, just ready to be hit. And of course, them flying, they said 15 feet, 5 meters in front of the plane, which is extremely close. I mean, it's about a car's length in front of them. It says a near collision between a Russian military plane and a Polish aircraft has forced NATO to, and they said forced, NATO to put its air police on higher readiness, a NATO official told the Daily Beast. The incident occurred over the Black Sea near Romania on Friday when the Polish aircraft was conducting a patrol as part of its responsibilities with Frontex, the European Union Borders Agency. Frontex is headquartered in Warsaw, Poland. NATO air policing detachments were put on higher readiness in response to the dangerous behavior of a Russian military plane in the vicinity of a Polish Frontex aircraft over the Black Sea near Romania on Friday, the official told the Daily Beast. NATO remains vigilant. Of course, they also say that they are going to protect every single inch of NATO. Meanwhile, Poland has actually put anti-tank measures. Romania has dug trenches across their entire border. Finland is now putting up an entire fence system and trenches, which, again, is now probably pretty far along now that it's been a month. And they have changed different rules to where they are actually sending NATO in beforehand to be on the borders of these countries. It seems to me like they are loading things up. They have set up the infrastructure of this so they can absolutely load up a World War III scenario, and no one really questions it too much because they have changed the rules around, so now they can move things around without too much notice and without drills. Dex, I gave my opinion over on news. What did you think about this? And it's crazy because we suggested this last night.
Yeah, I think this is almost like a 3 strikes you're out kind of scenario. So if you recall, when the leaked documents came out, there was an incident where a Russian jet was, I want to say it was going after a UK plane. And they said in the media that it had a malfunction and its missile fell off of the plane and it just fell. But what came out in the leaked documents was they fired upon them and it failed. It had a failure after takeoff. Then we have the MQ-9 Reaper that gets taken down by an incident of multiple Russian jets that are flying really close and doing things they shouldn't be doing and causing that drone to actually crash into the waters. And now we have this plane that's doing reconnaissance, I guess, and it has multiple people on board, and it also is with, poor judgment, I guess, in the sense of how the Russian fighter planes were acting around it, caused it to almost crash into the waters. Like it fell in altitude significantly, and then it had to make an emergency landing after the incident. So that's 3 in a row that have sort of happened. One that was semi covered up in the media, or at least they didn't tell us a lot, and we learned more about it in the leaks. The other one was really big, and now this one's really big. So this is getting to become sort of a reoccurring theme, and I get why NATO would want to, say, hey, this is 1 time, it's okay, 2 times, all right, it's a little iffy. Now it's 3 times this has happened. There's obviously something going on here, or at least that's what they're wanting to say, and why they're raising their readiness to this high alert for their air patrols.
And before I forget, Kevin Moore say Tucker is running a PSYOP. I have a comment on that in a second, but somebody else had a comment that that said that they do that. They'll fly close to a plane to have them show their cards. That could be too. I mean, these guys are trained to do these kind of maneuvers, and they are, they're professionals. So who knows what was going on there? But somebody else said we will be talking about the border stuff and the 42 stuff, which is really crazy. There's a lot of chatter surrounding that. We'll talk about it that closer to the end. I definitely think people in Texas should keep their head on a swivel and not for events like a car or a mall. I'm talking like bigger events like that. And we mentioned Houston, Texas, and New York are the 2 super hot spots according to our military members. Out of the 6, which were already named as the 6 most likely targets for a big some sort of event. So Houston, Texas, and New York. I don't want to do a pool here because it's something that nobody wants to see. But anyways, back to the Tucker PSYOP thing. So I just think it's funny. I guess being in the position of being somebody who is, we have a show. I've seen when people say things about myself and about friends that do YouTube channels. And I see when people say these things about people I truly know, and I'm like, God, they just have no idea. And they say that stuff about people that are just regular people, like the epitome of regular people. I guess it's not a secret. People were calling Jacob Israel things like, oh, he's part of this and he's part of whatever because he had a job at the WWE, that he was a writer for a while at the WWE. He, said on the show the other day, he did 11 years of selling mattresses. Like, everybody didn't know that, but, he was doing that normal stuff. And meanwhile, while he was doing that, people were accusing him of being some sort of crazy thing. And I'm like, and he, of course, didn't tell that until after he left that job. But it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, you could be wrong. As far as Tucker, it's like, I guess everybody accuses everybody of being something nowadays. And I don't have a problem with that. You have the right to. Same thing with now that the whole movement is around. Everybody's like, that's a woman, that's a woman, that's a woman. It actually drives regular people that are kind of waking up, because I know a couple, they were like, oh, now I can't stand it, because now everybody questions if everybody is a woman or everybody's a man or this or that. And it actually pushes people away. It's kind of like the same thing with like T-Man, how he keeps saying all these things like they ripped it from me, they stole it. They are then using that to put this agenda of, oh, he's always woe is me and sad me, poor me. I personally think, anybody would be saying that kind of stuff if something that massive happened, and I don't think I would let it go either, because I think none of us should. But again, it gives that impression. I just think the whole PSYOP thing, it's like, maybe we should, I guess, take every piece of information, not the people that are saying it, and then check that work of the stuff that's being said, not who's saying it. The person who's saying it, unless you have proof, then I would say take everything with a grain of salt and then try to process the information behind it. I guess, you can take stuff from, you can most likely think, oh, CNN is probably telling you this, but I think that there is some real stuff being put out there, but most of it is got a spin on it. I don't know. I've heard Tucker say so many things that I do believe is a objective truth, that at least he's telling more objective truths than not. Or the whole thing could be pulling people in, so everybody then goes, oh, we follow this person, and then that leads us down a hole. I get what you're saying about the PSYOP thing, but I don't think Tucker is. And that's not going to be a popular opinion. Half and half either hate him or they love him. But that's just what I think, and I've over the last couple of years, I really, if people don't like my thoughts, it doesn't hurt me. And then Putin tells World War II event West is waging a real war on Russia. Dex, you want to go over this one?
Yeah, so this was the what he told everybody at the Victory Day parade. Which, by the way, there wasn't a lot of modern tanks there. I think there might have been one. They actually seemed to have a shortage on some stuff. Obviously so. They're in the middle of a conflict that they created in UKR. But yes, he was there. He made some interesting quotes, untamed ambition, arrogance, and impunity, talking about the West, and quote unquote, a real war or conflict. He says today's civilization is once again at a decisive turning point. Now, again, this is their big day. It's, one of the biggest anniversaries that they have and they celebrate. So, you've got to expect him to make some sort of statement. Yeah, that's what they're talking about. He clearly is no longer saying that the conflict is really just about his special operations, but it's really a conflict with the West, and that the West is in a real conflict with Russia. So I guess that's sort of not a shift in narrative. It's certainly something that he's been saying quite a bit, but it is a big day and a big moment for him to say that to the entire population when everyone is paying attention.
And it's becoming more and more apparent. Local Russians are actually doing the opposite. They're not saying, oh, stop this conflict. They're saying he's being too weak with that attack on what is equivalent to our White House, the Senate building that he has his office in. They said, you need to be stronger. Why aren't you attacking back? Why aren't you going in there with everything blazing? The turning point, I know some said like it's the fourth turning, right? That every word there has some sort of meaning. But for them to say a real war has been unleashed against our motherland. They believe this is, they say that we're in a proxy war with the U.S. and the West. I mean, like this, I don't see how folks don't see what's about to happen here. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you, Tamara Barry. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining the fam. Thank you for the, you grabbed a badge. And then K Park Fraser, Wages World, Jammer One, Mitchell Wintro. Thank you for joining the fam. Thank you. I appreciate that. Lizzie, maybe Dizzy. Thank you. Ryan B. Thank you. Hijoles Frijoles. And Stanley Barrick. Thank you for joining the fam and becoming a member. Appreciate that. And thank you again, K. Parker Fraser, Ryan, and Carol. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. Thank you so much for the super sticker. And then mysterious Red Cross is appearing on Moscow streets, according to UKR media. Now, this is what can you guys think of? I'm going to open up the chat here for a second because this is freaky. Social media users and news outlet on UKR have reported Red Crosses that they say have mysteriously appeared on some streets in Moscow and speculated as to what they might mean. The markings on roads in the Russian capital spurred some theories that they could be targets for drones or missiles attacks ahead of Tuesday's parade in Red Square, marking Victory Day. Now, of course, everything's going on, which commemorates the Soviet role in the defeat of Nazi Germany in 1945. It says, in Moscow, people are going crazy because of the red crosses that have appeared around the city, wrote UKR journalist Andrei Taplienko. Now, before we move on, let me show you this. These are the... What's funny is... Wait, does this picture show it? Yeah. So check this out. What do you think that this is? I've seen, of course, the Red Cross is if say FEMA does this, they'll do it on a door and they'll say so many survivors, so many this. We've seen red dots or green dots on mailboxes, which started a theory a bunch of years ago. I think we even saw curb things. Now, sometimes this is like, there's some symbols that companies or utilities do, right? But is that this? Dex, what do you think? I think it's kind of freaky. I don't think that these drones are set up to spot an X. You know, X marks the spot type of thing. I don't think they're that advanced. They might have some facial recognition drones, but I don't think they can really train it on an X. I don't know, though. Or is it for satellites?
Yeah, I that, or maybe it was parade placement, like stand here. But I doubt it's that simple. There's something else going on with it, because it does look pretty weird. And the fact that they were all pulling up or popping up right before the parade, and I don't think it's necessarily directional or positional for parade goers. But yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense at the moment. But we'll have to, I guess, we may find out, or we may not know anything, because it may just be one of those things that everybody just questions, and the parade's now over, and the day is over, and everybody's now moved on to the next topic.
Well, I don't know if this may be just my big brain working here, because it's such a big brain. This red X correlates directly with a red X sign that says "Don't park here," and it might be like, "Hey, this is where the parade's going to be. Don't park here because there's going to be a parade." I don't know. This is what I mean, though. If that is the case, the internet can basically turn anything into red X's, death, you know. This is where a missile's going to hit, and it's going to take out the parking meter. Or somebody will be like, whoa, that's an obelisk. This is obviously, you know, Masons doing this. I don't know. You know what I mean. Sometimes we take it a little bit too far. Look at this. Check this out. I wonder if all of them are in parking spots. Here is another one. That one's on the corner, though. So is that where the parade is going around the corner? Why would you put a no parking there, though? It's like people aren't going to park there. And then the last one here. This one's kind of in the middle of the street. Could it be the path that the parade took? I guess we will find out. And that's kind of freaky. Oh, maybe those are bars. For a second, I thought that there was a brick wall behind the windows, like somebody, like straight out of a movie. They open the window and it's a brick wall. Let's see. What did chat say? Paint the town red. ... X. Street closings? Yeah, that could very be. V for vendetta. I think Putin is getting in line with the rest of the globus. Probably just a marking new water lines or something. Go stand on it. Ask questions later. Into Bo. Yeah, I don't think with the drones and the missile strikes and everything, I don't know. If I saw red X, even if it was right next to it and it says this red X is for no parking, I still probably wouldn't sign on it. Oh, is my autofocus going nuts? I don't even use autofocus. Dex, do you want to cover the next piece and then I'll go back to the keynote that right there? I'm going to fix the focus.
Yeah, certainly. So let's talk a little bit about this topic. An ominous policy change is a sign that Russia is preparing for a long, bloody conflict in Ukraine. I almost think that this may be a sign of something bigger as we listen to Vlad talk about the conflict with the West. It's not just about UKR anymore. I think that we've said it many times. They were holding back their equipment. They're holding back potentially large amounts of troops. They're also conscripting larger amounts of troops than they've used. This is probably all in preparation for what they believe is coming, which is a greater conflict across NATO with Russia. But what is coming out specifically is I think it's Dara Masakat, an expert on Russian military and the Rand Corporation think tank, basically said that they are taking that Russia is taking a step-by-step and necessary legal mechanisms that they need to do transition their economy and transition their country into conflict time. Basically, what are all the steps you would expect the country to do? What steps are they taking if they were going to be going into a serious conflict? And they have been doing those things. So using examples like the conscription laws that they just recently enacted in April, another round, not just another round of conscription, but specifically the types of laws, digitizing them, making sure digital notices are going out to those that they're bringing in, and then increasing the penalties on them if they don't show, things like that. So it's just another point of view, obviously coming from the West. It's coming from a think tank out of Georgetown University. But it is from an expert who studied Russia quite a bit, studies the military, studies what they do. It's not just any old blowhard making up their own opinion on it. So we got to give a little bit of credence to it. But for whatever it is, this is their opinion. But they're looking at the actions that have been taken by Vlad specifically, and it does sort of roll up to looking like he's mobilizing something much bigger than just the special operations that they've been talking about in UKR. Whether it's the shift in the economy, the shift in taking over the companies that are building and manufacturing, shifting the economics into wartime readiness, and then doing all of the conscription and the new conscription laws.
Yeah, as far as all of the changes that are going in, it's pretty clear what direction this is headed. So this is something that's pretty telling. And then, what was that? Ian DeBose says, from a photographer up the aperture to a 5. So that would actually be... so when you have everything in focus, including the background, I'm sure that some would like that, but it basically looks like a cell phone at that point. the thing is when you have cell phone video, everybody looks the same. Now, a lot of people have, what do you call it? Low aperture cameras now. But personally, when I started using low apertures and things like that, nobody in this niche actually did. So it's kind of what stuck out. A lot of people made comments that that it looked nice. And there are some people, most people don't care about what it looks like. But when you have something like this, even at my old house where I had basically nothing, I had a crappy, tiny fake wall. It was a piece of cardboard. It looked nice. But I still stuck out because everybody else was doing phones, cell phone videos, kind of like I do on news. But again, when you have so much stuff, if you have any stuff in your background, it distracts people. If I do, what was that?
That's a great reason to go check out the news channel. If you want to see what's in the background, go over to Marfoogle News.
Yes, indeed. When I do have focus on everything, people make comments about the Star Wars stuff. They make, you have evil, you have Darth Vader in the background. You're evil. They see the fake, like literally this is one of those walls from Home Depot, one of those fake faux wall things that I just blocked the doorway there. And they're like, it's bricks. He's a mason. It's like that kind of stuff. I do understand that there's symbology everywhere, but sometimes it's just like, hey, I needed something to block the wall. People have said my shirt, when I have a word on it, that it's backwards, that's significant. I'm like, no, it's just because the camera's flipped and the other way doesn't work with the little box in the corner. Anyways. Brazil's Miranda, key figure in Snowden leaks, dies. So apparently, and young too, Brazilian journalist, activist, and former Congressman David Miranda, the husband of U.S. blogger Glenn Greenwald, and his collaborator on the story of the American whistleblower Edward Snowden's intelligence leaks, died yesterday after a long illness. He would have turned 38 Wednesday. He was extremely young. That's my age. It is with the most profound sadness that I announce the passing away of my husband, Greenwald wrote on Twitter. His death early this morning came after a 9-month battle with intensive care. He died in full peace, surrounded by his children and family and friends, added Greenwald, 56, who lives in Brazil with his dad and Miranda's 2 sons. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva sent his condolences, calling Miranda a young man with an extraordinary trajectory who left too soon. So, there's a long illness there. I wonder if anybody is questioning the circumstances behind his illness, but very important key figure who just passed away. So very, very important there. Before we go on, just want to remind you, if you don't have prep food, you should, and you should be going and checking out, of course, any kind of freeze-dried food. If you go through us, it will help support us at the same time. Go to marfuglenews.com/prep. You can get, of course, a bulk food at a discount, and right now you get $200 worth of free stuff, including actually, right now they're giving you a heater, a 4-in-1 solar flashlight, and radio, and all sorts of other kind of goodies and $200 value worth of stuff. So make sure to go check it out. marfuglenews.com/prep. You'll not only get a great deal, but you'll be helping us as well. Dex, do you have a comment on Miranda? And obviously anything revolving around Snowden is kind of...
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I think he was detained shortly or briefly during the whole saga of the reporting of Snowden. So yeah, definitely a key figure in that and in releasing that information and getting it out. So and certainly when you see somebody like that leave, you sort of question like, is there something else there, because of the fact that of the ties to such a deeply entrenched organization like the NSA or any 3-letter agency in America for that matter. So yeah.
They say he has a battle, but they didn't say cancer. Some folks said that about 8 months ago he got really sick. What was he sick with? It doesn't say, does it? Maybe somewhere else it says cancer?
They said stomach issues, but yeah, I didn't get any details.
Oh, that's scary. That's scary. Obviously, I deal with a bunch of that stuff, but it makes you think, right?
And Adam, when you were fixing the autofocus, did the F-16 article get skipped?
No, it just didn't load right. So I was gonna skip that, but if hold on, let me try to.
It's okay. I'll just
I got it back. I was able to
asking for them, and it's like, come on, like they all and they should get them. They say, right? Like the headline is the story. We know this stuff all the when it comes to UKR, it's funny. It's like what do they need today? So what they need today, of course, is they need F-16s to take care of a new problem that they're having coming from the Russian strike fighters. And of course, experts are saying they should just give them to them. So expect to see in the coming weeks, after we give 1.2 billion, that F-16s will be the next thing they get.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's super predictable. The headline loaded, but the article is the wrong one on here. So,
hate it when that happens.
Yeah, but I did show the headline there, and people get the gist of it. Because, what do you guys think is going to happen in 3 to 4 weeks? We're going to be sending F-16s, or somebody else will be. And what do you guess? Germany or Poland? Somebody will. Let's go over the web only. Before we do that, though, I do want to say a very thank you to Carol. Thank you. Appreciate you. Looks like you were the top supporter today. Jessica Lancaster, Kay Parker Fraser. Appreciate the super chats. And then You Are Soul. Fairies of Venus. Thank you for being the top supporter this week. Zen Wen over on D Live. Thank you, everybody that is popped in. Thank you, Linda G. Johnson, Michelle K. Pisces, Sniffles 711. Thanks to Marf, Dex, and Mods for all the updates. Well, thank you for being here. Beer Juice, stop the world. I want to get off. Beer Juice, don't make us turn this world around. Well, we actually probably should. Beer Juice, Comet Moon made me. Well, thank you, Beer Juice, and thank you, Comet Moon. And Maija Santos, thank you. And Doubt Her, thank you. Kimbria, thank you. And everybody else that came by tonight, I appreciate you. Thank your mods by going over to marfugglenews.com/friends. You can find all of our moderators there, a whole great team. And, of course, go check out Wages, Trinity, Red or Blue Pill, Hi-Ho, Kermit the Frog here. Ilea is, of course, awesome. RJL Harris. Rip Crow is here tonight. And I'm sorry, I read a couple of your comments tonight, and I was going to repeat them, and then I got distracted. Rip Crow, of course, awesome guy. Lisa R. Hall, Jammer1, Gem, CJ Blaze, Chance Paladin, and, of course, Bones. Bones is... been so busy lately. It's been crazy. Dex, let's go over the web only. We've got some crazy stuff down there.
We sure do. So for those of you that are new here, go to marfugglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for today's show, or even easier, just open up the show notes link. It's right down below in the description. It'll take you to this webpage with all the content we just covered. So if you're looking for the sources, it's right there. You're going to find this yellow bar that says overflow web content. This is the rest of the story. So where we put the rest of the things, some of it supports a lot of the conversations we've already had tonight. Some of it is just topics we don't cover because they end up getting everybody all riled up into fisticuffs, and we don't want that. So look, lots happening. So there was a huge verdict today in a civil case against T-Man. He now owes $5 million to this person. That is there, the full coverage of that. We do, and it goes hand in hand with a lot of the political coverage that's going on. So that's in that section there as well. updates from even Melania, even the Georgia governor is there. There's some hints about 2024, so that's there. Elon in the news, making some claims about what happened in Texas as well. An interesting story about El Chapo's son and how he has basically poisoned America. And I don't want to mention the name of that chemical that's coming across, but you all know what it is. We've talked about it before. That's there. We definitely have a lot of the updates around UKR. We have what's going on with Putin. Some of the things that happened, of course, they tried to do more strikes as they were going into the Victory Day, to position themselves. And then get this, Lukashenko actually had to exit fairly quickly. He wasn't, they're speculating he's not feeling good. Some even said he couldn't walk very far. I think his arm was bandaged up. So he left right after the parade. He got out in a hurry. There's some banking updates, some financial updates, some interesting things going on in the school clubs, some really screwbally, in my opinion, my personal opinion, type of clubs that are going on, and some horrible thing that happened on a cruise ship. So look, there's a lot of other content. This is the rest of the story. So everything else that we couldn't cover, it's right here. We put it together for you every night. It's on our website. Just go there. You can find the news articles. You can read about it, get caught up on what's happening. It is on marfooglenews.com. Again, click on the thumbnail for today's show. Click on the thumbnail for yesterday's show. You still get the rest of the story over there as well, too. If you want a shortcut, open up that show notes link. It's right down below in the description on YouTube and Rumble.
And then keep in mind, we will be doing call-ins on Thursday and Friday. So make sure if you do want to call in, those days are the days to watch. It's going to be super fun. I hope all of you join me there. And thank you so much for showing up today. Dex, thank you for your service.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Thank you for all of the new members. Again, this is like brand new. So I don't know how I was able to see. Thank you guys. Wages World, thank you. K. Parker Fraser, Tamara Berry, Jammer One, Mitchell Wintro. Thank you for joining the fam. Thank you, Ilea. Of course, got to have the M, right? Lizzie may be dizzy because we're the Marfoogle fam and we're the Marfia. Thank you so much. And Ryan B., Frijoles, Dex J, Stanley Bruick. Thank you, everybody that supports our fam, and I appreciate you. Have a good night. It is, of course, going to show you back tomorrow. We're going to probably do an earlier show tomorrow, and then Thursday and Friday will be normal time at around 7. So have a good night. Be safe. Be prepared. And Marf out. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.
for all the members. We will survive like we Johnny Depp. Go with my soul, pantry is full. Now we ready when apocalypse roll. I got bread with my step, preface to that red. We will survive like we Johnny Depp. Go with my soul, pantry is full. Now we ready when apocalypse roll. I got bread with my step, preface to that red. We will survive like we Johnny Depp. Go with my soul, pantry is full. Now we ready when apocalypse roll. I got bread with my step. I got Stanley, I'm Barry, that A1J. E holy, free, holy, see, no stay. Now back down with the Ryan B. Lizzie, maybe DGIIC. Ilea, and Missy. I'm here with the winner and a big B with a Jama and a Damara. Barry and a Cape Fraser. Oh, nah, with the wages world. Bring it on down, now it's a new world. I got bread with my step, preface to that red. We will survive like we Johnny Depp. Go with my soul, pantry is full. Now we ready when apocalypse roll. I got Jordan, you know, handle me. Oh, na by Nazi, na by Egoni, na ni.